Hey everyone, and welcome to Isms by Josie. Today we're doing another itty bitty knit kit from Five Below. For my returning subscribers, thank you so much for tuning in. And for my new viewers, please consider subscribing, share, hit that like button, leave a comment below, and click on that notification bell for future videos. So today, you guys, we are doing another itty bitty knit kit from Five Below. This is a viewer request. Today we're doing berry milk. If you have a request, please leave a comment below. If you don't want to wait for me to find the kit, because I do have to find these kits before I can get them done for you, you can go ahead and take a clear image of the instructions and send them to me via email, and maybe I'll be able to help you out. Now you guys, these videos are a supplement to the kit, so if you want to get the kit done, I highly recommend that you buy the kit either online or at your local Five Below. I only show how to do the stitches, and if there are any issues in the instructions, I try to help work it out. So I cannot show any instructions, I cannot answer any information that are on the instructions due to copyright. So but you know, like I said, I just do the stitches. If you need to speed up or slow down the video, click on the gear button in the corner. There's playback options to go fast or slow. If you don't need to hear me talk, you could always lower the volume on your device and then click on the CC closed caption button. So let's get started. This box here comes with stuffing needles, felt sign, I guess. We have a plastic sewing needle, a couple spools of yarn, and then we have felt stickers. So of course along this you get the instructions right here. We'll get into that. Here's the pouch, and then we have our couple spools of yarn. So in this pouch you're gonna find the stuffing. You're going to find your knitting needles, the felt sign and sticker, and then the plastic sewing needle. So I'm just going to put the stuffing back in because you don't want that to get dirty or catch any dust or debris. And I'm going to do that the same with the felt stickers and sign. And then just so that I don't lose it, I'm going to put the plastic needle in there as well. Alright, setting these aside, let's take a little quick glance at the instructional booklet. I like this because it has illustrations and written text on how to do these instructions step by step. If you find that difficult, that's where this video comes in, because I show it sometimes my own way. So you have a variety of ways to learn how to knit. I get that comment too, like, why don't I do it the way that the booklet says it? Well, because that's not how I've done it. You know, everybody has their way of learning. So I've been knitting for let's just say 20 years. Can't believe that. But anyway, you know, so I try to think best on, if I were trying to relearn this, what's best to show in the video. Sometimes the illustrations and the text get too cumbersome and it's not easy to just pick up and read. Sometimes it's too much, so I try to break it down. Now they also include a ruler, so that's kind of cool because you don't have to go get one yourself, so that's always useful. Alright, so let's get straight into the instructions. Today we're going to do, oh my gosh, I hate when this happens. So we're going to do 3 rectangles or 4. They don't really tell you how much. I guess we're doing 4 rectangles. The large one is going to have a white band. I don't like that because it's like, oh, it tells you number of rows, but you have to make sure that you get the rectangle to be the measured length that it says in the instructions, and everybody's stitches is different. As a beginner, you might have loose stitching. So if it gives you, oh, let's do this many rows, you can do that many rows, but if you have loose stitches, you're going to have a big a way bigger rectangle than everyone else, especially what the illustrations show. So that when you end up sewing these pieces in the end, you're going to be like, well, why does mine look different? That's because you have loose stitching. And then on the other side of it, if it says to do so many rows and you're a very tight stitcher, because that could happen as a beginner, you're going to get a very small project. So when you start sewing, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? And that's just one problem. Now you have 4 squares. What if your squares are all different sizes because you went by rows, and as a beginner your stitches are not consistent? You're gonna have some big ones and some small ones. So it's best to make sure you just have a good equal measurement to what each rectangle says it's supposed to be, so that when you do sew it together, you don't have one long arm, one short arm. You know, that would look silly. So we're going to go by measurement length and not rows. And with that band of white, maybe it's just going to be 2 passes. Maybe we'll just do that, and then 1 pass of the, or maybe 3 passes and then 2 passes of the pink at the end. So we'll see as we go. But it looks like we're going to, let's see. Yeah, it has you doing a, it's so funny because this is what I don't like about the instructions. It doesn't really tell you what color to start with first, but just reading it, it looks like it's going to start with the pink, because you have that pink band and then you have the white band. So let's do that. All right, and it kind of, you know what, it's not bad because it actually, the way that it is, all right, it's going to work out. This one's easier than the other ones. Let's say the last video, because reading it, you can see where you can, how many rows you can do of what color when you switch colors. All right, so this is the spool. I love it when it comes in these with the little band around it. What you want to do is find the center. Sometimes it's easy to find. In this case, it's not. So what I would do is just pick the inside and pull it out. You might pull out a huge chunk, but that's fine because, oh, I didn't. It's just a little chunk. But you just need this end. When we continue pulling, you just put a little paperweight down on here and start pulling, and this spool is not going to roll around on you. If you remove the band and you get the other end, which is easier to typically easier to find, that's okay too. But as you pull it, it's gonna, you can't keep this on. You'll have to remove it, and then it's gonna roll around. And I hate that. It's so annoying, especially when you have pets, because they think it's a game when it starts rolling on its own. So let us get this end here, and we're going to get straight into it. So in the beginning, it tells you to measure a length of a tail. I'm going to go ahead off camera and just measure that tail already, because again, due to copyright reasons. And then I'm going to pop in and I'm going to show you what to do next. Alright, so I've measured the tail. This is what we have here. What you want to do with the tail is you want to keep it off your workstation. So take the tail and pull it down. You can drape it over your desk and just keep that out of the way and down. The feeder yarn, which is attached to the spool, you want to keep up and out of the way. So that way you don't confuse the two. Because what I've done in the past by accident is use this tail as my feeder yarn, and then obviously you run out at some point realizing that it's not attached to the spool, and then you just have to undo everything. So what we're going to do now is cast on with a slip knot, and I'm going to do this with my hands. So keep this pinch very tight. We're going to take the middle and ring finger and hold the yarn apart fairly loosely. And then you're going to take your 2 fingers here. We're going to lift up, turn down to make a huge loop. Then I'm going to take my index and my middle finger, and we're going to grab that feeder yarn and pull it through the loop to create this huge knot. So we have this huge knot now, this huge circle. So what we're going to do is pull the top part. We're not going to pull this bottom part that's attached to the feeder yarn. That's not going to work. So we're just going to pull this top part at the same time pushing this large loop towards the left thumb. This is going to tighten up your knot, 1. 2, this is going to push it as close to the thumb to where that tail line is supposed to be. And this is going to minimize the amount of waste that you use, because I'm finding in these kits that sometimes they don't give you enough material and you just want to make sure you're not wasting as much. So this is how much I've gotten close to my thumb. Ideally you want it as close to the tail line as possible, minimal waste, but if you're wasting this much, it's not that bad. Okay, so after we've tightened this knot and you can't push it down anymore, just to tighten the knot a little bit, you want to take your tail and pull it out just a little bit more. You're going to feel a little give because there's a little bit more you can just take out of this knot, and then you can stop. You don't have to pull it too hard. I'm just going to grip the knot now with my index and thumb. We have this huge knot that we're loop that we're working with now, but we have to make it a more manageable size to fit in 2 needles. So let's pull the feeder yarn slowly until you get the loop to a size that's big enough to fit 2 knitting needles. Once you've got that down, you can stick your 2 needles in there. If you have to make the loop bigger, you can make it bigger. If you need it to go tighter, you can, from the feeder yarn end, you can make it tighter. Okay. And these colors are screaming wicked, right? Click the like button and comment below if you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so now I'm going to gather up some feeder yarn around my finger. I normally like to put a lot of this. If you look in the booklet, I think it shows you a more daintier way of doing it, but I don't care. I just love to get like all the yarn on my finger as possible so I don't have to keep grabbing. But anyway, so let's start this thing. You have your 2 knitting needles here. In this project, and these kits actually, it only uses 1 stitch, which is very nice, and we're calling it it is called the knit stitch. So the knit stitch is the most basic stitch in knitting. Once you learn how to do the knit stitch, you can use it to anything you can think of, making a square pot holder, making a long scarf, making a huge table runner. It's going to be the same stitch, so you just have to, once you learn it, you can just multiply this by how many times bigger you want it, and then you can make your own thing, which is, I think, great. Alright, so to start the knit stitch, what you have to do is get into your knit stitch position. In this case, it's going to be an X. And for knit stitches, you have to have the right needle at the bottom, left needle on top, and then you want the feeder yarn towards the back. And that's how you do a knit stitch. Believe it or not, there are other stitches where this is not going to be the same. It's going to be different. How you hold it, how you hold the feeder yarn. But for this project and all these kits, I'm finding it's all the same, which is great. So right needle in the back, left needle on top, feeder yarn in the back. Alright, so the next step from here is we're going to wrap the feeder yarn around the right needle, and we're going to go back to forward and down between those 2 needles. So you also want to make sure that your needles are touching. Right now they're not touching, so this feeder yarn is free to do whatever it wants, which we don't want. In knitting, you always want your knitting needles to touch. Your knitting needles touching will prevent you from losing your stitches or losing any feeder yarn that you have in here. So keep it touching at all times. If you look in this angle, you can see that we're trying to essentially trap the feeder yarn in this little crevice. That's exactly what we want. So once you're in this position now, the next step is to slide your left needle down the right needle, constantly touching, going around the tip, still touching, and going around down its back, still touching. This is going to force the right needle to push the feeder yarn through this loop. So let's demonstrate that now. Slide the left over the right, over the tip, down its back, still touching, and it forced the feeder yarn through that loop creating a new stitch on the right needle. So when we cast on the stitches, basically what we're doing is creating a new stitch on here that we're going to transfer over to the left side. To do that, you're going to take your left needle and you're going to stick that through the new stitch you made, and you're going to lift it up and we're going to pull it off the right, and it gets stuck on the left. So now we have 2 new stitches. Alright, so let's do this a couple more times. Stick your needle into the new stitch now. We're going to get into our knit stitch position, which is an X. You want the right needle in the back, left needle on top, and the feeder yarn in the back. You want to keep your needles always touching. You can tell because if you look closely, there's just that one point of surface on those needles that are touching. So feeder yarn in the back, we're going to wrap it around the right needle, going back to forward and down. You're going to feel or hear it snap. That did both. And you want to trap that feeder yarn in that crevice with your needles still touching. From here, we're going to slide the left needle down the right needle over the point and down its back, constantly touching. And that's going to force the feeder yarn through the loop, creating a new stitch on the right needle. And again, to cast on stitches, we have to just transfer the new stitch on the right over to the left needle. To do that, you're going to take your left needle, stick it through that new stitch, lift it up off the right needle, and now you have 3 stitches. Alright, you guys, let's do this one more time with you. Stick the needle into the new stitch, get into your knit stitch position, right needle on the bottom, left needle on top, feeder yarn in the back, constantly touching. We're going to wrap our feeder yarn around the right needle, going back to front and down. You're going to feel or hear it snap. Okay, that time I just felt it snap. We're going to trap the feeder yarn in this little crevice, constantly touching the needles. And now we're going to slide the left needle down the right needle over the point and down its back, forcing that feeder yarn through the loop, creating a new stitch on the right. And to cast on stitches, we're just transferring the new stitch on the right over to the left needle by taking your left needle, sticking it through the new stitch, lifting it off the right needle and onto the left. So now you have 4 stitches. So you guys, now from here you can either rewind it as many times as you need until you get comfortable casting on the stitches. But what I'm going to do now is just complete the number of stitches that the instructions tells me to do. And then I'm going to come back in and show you how to do the next steps. Alright, so I've casted on the number of stitches that we need for this rectangle. Now, before we go into the next steps, I just wanted to show you a little tip. When we're casting on stitches or doing a row, really not paying attention to what's going on under our hand here. We're normally focused right here. So when we finished our previous row or casting on, just take a look at your project. So right now, the way that my hands was holding this, my stitches were bunching and they're now like kind of twisting out of whack. You want to make sure that your project grows down, because I've done this in the past where I didn't pay attention to this and I knitted straight through the next row and I kept that little twist in there, and so it doesn't lie flat, it looks ugly. So you just want to make sure that after every row you just twist this down, and that does two things for you. It keeps your project straight, but also what could happen sometimes is that this stitch here is one stitch, and you typically want to keep your, like I said, your feeder yarn back, so you want to keep it down and back. If you accidentally keep it up and back, it's gonna create a second stitch. It's gonna look like a second stitch. It's not, but it is. And then so you'll gain an extra stitch, which is wrong, but you can also tell what it's doing because, again, that line is no longer straight, it's twisting upward. So it does two things. It keeps your project growing down, and it prevents you from accidentally having a second looking stitch. I'll show you as we get further how that would happen, because I've actually done these tight, so it's kind of hard to see what it does. But that doesn't mean you knit tight. That's just how I do it. And then it loosens up over time, so it's not a big deal. But just make sure that it's in a straight row. Okay, now I actually edited a chunk of this off because I forgot about that white stripe. But for these instructions, which I don't think are great for beginners, because we're doing something different now, we're not going to continue this with the pink. We have to do that white stripe. So it says to cast on your stitches, but then the next bullet point does say create a white stripe. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to do the white stripe. We've got this little thing here. This is going to create the white stripe, as well as, oh, and they didn't even see, they actually did one of these, which is, whoa. Oh, whoa. All right, this is a first. It's not even a whole, this is two separate cuts. Comment below if they did that for yours. So we don't even have a full spool. We have two long strands is what they did. So that, I'm not a fan of that, because then what if I just want like one continuous, because then you might have to tie these two ends together. But anyway, so here's the first one. We're going to change colors, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a nice, maybe more cleaner way, less waste. What they tell you to do is just tie this together. You're going to cut it, and well, you're not going to cut it because you need pink again. That's where it gets complicated. So let me just show you how I would do it. We're going to take our middle pinky and thumb and hold one end very tightly. Then we're going to take our index and middle and hold it apart a little loosely. And we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to lift up with these two fingers, turn it down to create this huge loop. Then I'm going to take my index and middle finger, and we're going to pull that feeder yarn through the huge loop, creating a huge knot. So now from here, we're going to pull the top part, not the part that's connected to the feeder yarn, but this top part here, and we're going to push that knot towards the left thumb. So keep pulling until that knot is nice and snug towards the left thumb, until you can't push it anymore. This time I did better. I only have this much waste. So from here, you can pull on this little tail and pull it out. So this is how much yarn we're wasting. That's not a lot. Now if you went in and you just tied it, you could be wasting more than that, because you need a good amount of yarn to give a good tie, especially if you have bigger hands. So we're going to hold the knot like we did before, and we're going to make it manageable enough to fit a couple of needles in there. All right. Set this aside. We're going to use this in a bit. All right, so we're going to take this. I'm just going to gather a little bit for tension. We're not going to use the pink yarn. You're going to stick this needle into the top stitch here. Okay, be sure not to pierce the yarn. You want to make sure you got all of it. We're going to get into our knit stitch position. Now from here, we're going to take the white, slip it on to the right needle. You can tighten it up if you need to, like that. We're going to drop the pink feeder yarn now. We don't need that tension. Pick up the white, gather that up around your finger. You can hold this with your other fingers out of the way, but we're going to do that slide thing. We're going to slip this down to get that feeder yarn stuck into the crevice. Keep your needles touching. We're going to slide the left needle down the right needle and down its back like we've done, and that's going to force the white yarn through that loop like this, and then we're going to lose the pink off the needle. So the idea is the number of stitches that you have on your right needle, we're going to end up with the same number of stitches on our left needle. We're going to end up with the same number of stitches on our right needle. So since we've gained one, we're going to lose one. So we just have to carefully push this one off the left needle. To do that, you want to push up your stitches. Make sure you hold down the ones that you want to keep. And we're just going to push this one off like that. All right, since we're going to use this one again, leave it on. We're not going to do anything to it. You can maybe tighten it up a little bit because we're going to continue with the white. All right, so again, you can use your other fingers here to hold the pink back, but we're going to continue with the white. Stick your right needle into the next stitch. All right, then we're going to get into our knit stitch position. We're going to wrap the feeder yarn around the right needle, back to front and down. You're going to feel or hear it snap. Get it into that crevice. We're going to slide the left needle down the right needle, forcing that white yarn through the loop. So since we've gained a stitch here, we have to lose a stitch here, which means we're going to carefully push our stitches close to the tip, and we're going to lose this one only. So watch these, keep them back, and then just push this one off the left needle. One more time with you guys. So stick your needle into the next stitch. Get into your knit stitch position. We're going to wrap the feeder yarn around the right needle, back to front and down. You're going to feel or hear it snap. Get it into that crevice. Keep your needles touching. We're going to slide the left needle down the right needle, forcing that white yarn through the loop. So since we've gained a stitch here, we're going to lose a stitch here. So move your stitches up and push that stitch we just used off the left needle. All right, so we did this 3 times, you guys. We have 3 new stitches here. We have minus 3 stitches on this side. So now what we're going to do is complete the rest of the row. And then I'm going to come back in and show you what you have to do next. Alright, so after we've done that, what we have to do next is I removed all the needles, the stitches we casted on the left. When you are a righty, when you do the next row, you have to have stitches on your left, but we have none. So what we're going to do is just switch the needles around. We're going to put the left needle onto the right side and make that the right needle. We're going to take the right needle and we're just going to flip it over to the left side. Now we're working with multiple yarns here, which I don't like, so we just got to untangle ourselves here. All right, make sure that this pink yarn is still out of the way. Straighten up your project like I mentioned. We're going to make sure that it grows down, so you want this to go in a straight line. So that's going to put your pink yarn down here, which is good, down out of the way. Our tail is down here and out of the way. Our white yarn is down and out of the way. So hello. Like I said before, if you accidentally have this up and back, see how this is one? It's going to turn it into two. Now this is, let's pretend that these are the same colors. So it turns into two. I've done that in the past accidentally, and then you end up growing your project outward because you're adding a stitch every time. And I learned that the hard way. So I'm making a nice flat table runner and it starts flaring and it turns into a skirt. So make sure that everything is in a straight line, and that's gonna keep your feeder yarn down and back. So you want this straight, and it's easier to tell with two different colors because you want a pink line that goes straight. You don't want a pink line that's like that. So, all right. So we're just gonna do, let me see. Okay, so based on the text, it sounds like after we finish this one row of white, we're going straight into pink again. So let's just do that because it doesn't mention how many rows to do with white. It goes straight into picking up the pink. So that's impossible. Oh my gosh. Nope, we're not. We're going to do white one more time. So that's where I don't like these instructions for beginners because, you know, I'm distracted by filming, but even I almost missed that. So we're going to do one more. Why? Because our pink yarn is all the way down here. How are we going to make it this way? So we're just going to do one more white so that they're both at the same side and we can just pick up the pink in the next row. So to do that, we made the flip. Now we basically do the knit stitches all over again. So stick your needle into this first stitch here and we're going to do our knit stitch. Okay, you want to gain a stitch here and lose a stitch here. So stick your needle into the next stitch. Okay, make a knit stitch. We're going to gain a stitch here and then we're going to lose a stitch here. One more time. Stick your needle into the next stitch. We're going to knit a stitch, gain a stitch on this needle, lose a stitch on this needle. So we're maintaining the same number of stitches across the board here. So since we've gained 3 on this side, we lost 3 on this side. All right, so from here I'm gonna just continue the rest of the stitches, and when we come back I'm going to show you how to pick up the pink. So I completed all the stitches on this row, and we're now back to having an empty left stitch needle. So I'm just going to move it over to the right. We're going to flip this over, and we're going to make sure that our project is growing down. Alright, this is going to force your feeder yarn to go down and back. Now we're going to pick up the pink. So what we need to do here is get our pink situated. Since we're not going to go back to the white in this rectangle, I'm going to cut about 1 inch or so. And then so that we don't lose any stitches, I'm going to tie this around the pink feeder yarn. Don't tie it too tight, just tie it enough, double knot it to make the knot secure. And then we're just going to continue doing this. So stick your needle into this first stitch. We've now picked up the pink. We're just going to knit with the pink now. Alright, so I'm just gonna talk through this because I wanted to show you what it's gonna look like on the wrong side. But see, this is not customary to a beginner situation here. To be honest, if we did do a beginner rectangle, maybe we should have started with the second rectangle because that's one solid color. You're not worried about transferring colors. But in saying this, once we've completed this rectangle, the next 3 rectangles are going to be so much easier because not only are they smaller, they're not transitioning in any color, so you don't need to worry about, you know, doing another slip knot, picking up the right color, tying off, you know, all these things. But I can imagine, comment below, let me know if this is your first kit. If you've already done a number of these itty bitty knit kits, then you should be good to go. I'm trying to keep up with all their kits, you guys. They keep coming out with new ones. The only way I know if there's new ones is if you message me or if I hop on their website. I know that there's new ones in store that maybe don't get onto their website. So again, if there's something that you want or need help with, let me know. Because either I find it or you help me with like an image of the instructions. But I completed that now. So here is what it's looking like when we flip this over to do the next row. Just look at this situation here. We can tell that this is not the right side. This is going to be the wrong side. Why? Because when we look at it, there's that little band of pink. It's not a nice perfect color blocking. If we look at the other side, we can see that we have some rows of pink, some rows of white. And when we do the rest of the rectangle in pink, it's just going to go back to pink on this side too. So this side would be the right side. And if you want to remember which side that is without looking at these bands, I can just tell it is because the tail is on the left side. Usually the right looking side is going to be from the beginning with your tail on your left side. We had casted these on and then we went straight into doing the next row. When we look at the wrong side, you can tell because there's this really loose batch of stitches from the beginning, because in the beginning it gets a little loose, and then as you grow it, the stitches become a bit tighter. But also you can see the color transition. There's a band of white and pink, and there's a huge band of white and a little band of pink and another band of white. So it's a little choppy. That's how you tell. But anyway, so from here on out, you guys, I'm going to now complete this rectangle. And then I'm going to use the ruler to make sure that I keep the size, because it tells you exactly how long it should be, regardless of how many rows it tells you should make. And then I'm going to come back in, you guys, and I'm going to show you how to cast off your stitches. So for now, let me do this in silence. Alright, so I've made the length a rectangle that we need, and now I'm going to show you guys how to cast off. So let me just gather up some yarn here. Alright, so what we need to do is knit 2 stitches, and this casting off can be applied in any project, so this is pretty universal. So knit 2 stitches, and then what we're going to do is take this first stitch here and we're going to lift it up and leapfrog it over this one. Do that now. You can use your thumb to hold this stitch down because we're going to remove this stitch off the right needle like that, and then we're going to remove it off the left needle like this. Okay, so now you're left with 1 stitch. You always have to have 2 stitches to do the leapfrog. So let's knit another stitch. We're going to stick our left needle into this stitch here and lift it up, leapfrog it over the next stitch, take your thumb and hold it down. We're going to remove this stitch off the right needle, and then we're going to move it off the left needle. So we're back to 1. Then we're going to just do another knit stitch. Right, we're going to take our left needle and stick it in this stitch now. We're going to leapfrog it over the next. You can hold this down with your thumb. We're going to remove this stitch off the right needle and then remove it off the left needle. So we're back to 1. We're going to keep doing this all the way down the line until we remove all the stitches off this needle. And then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to show you how to deal with the last stitch on the right needle. So play this back as many times as you need until you're comfortable doing this on your own. Alright, so we're down to the last stitch on the right needle. There's no more stitches on the left. What we have to do now is just cut about 1 inch or so of this feeder yarn, and we're going to take it and yarn over the needle from back to forward, and then we're going to pick up this stitch and leapfrog it over the yarn over. You can hold it down with your thumb, remove it off the right needle, and then remove it off the left needle. Now to complete this, we're just going to take our right needle and pull out that feeder yarn all the way out. And then we're going to tighten it up this loop by pulling on that feeder yarn to create this knot. And now we're done with our first rectangle. Really big, right? So again, you can tell this is the wrong side because we declared that if the tail is on the left, that is the right side. And since it's on the right, we know that we have to flip it over and see that this side is the right side. And you can also tell because there's no banding. There's a nice perfect little stripe right across. It's nice and clean as opposed to this side where it's kind of stripy. Okay, so that's how you tell. I'm going to set this aside. You guys, I'm going to just show you how to do the white rectangle. Since we did a solid, oh, it's not solid, it has a stripe, but since we did one starting with pink, let's just do a white one. It's going to be one of the arms. And then I'm going to do the other two rectangles off camera because at that point you can either rewind the video or you're probably comfortable enough to complete the rest of the rectangles. See why I don't like this? Look. Now you have a little piece for what? You got to tie it to a next piece. I don't like sometimes how they pack these things. Alright, so let's use this. Off camera, I'm going to measure out the tail, come back in, and we're going to start this all over again one more time in case it is a refresher. Alright, so I measured out my, measured out my tail. Going to keep it down out of the way, feeder yarn up top. We're going to do the slip knot, so hold on to this tight. With your middle and index, we're going to hold apart the yarn fairly loosely. Take your two fingers, lift it up, turn it down to make this large loop. We're going to take our index and middle finger and just grab that feeder yarn and pull it through that large loop to then make a large knot. Then we're going to pull this top part here, not the bottom part that is attached to the feeder yarn. So pull the top at the same time pushing that knot towards the thumb, and this is going to eliminate the waste that you make with the yarn. This time I got it nice and butt up against the thumb, so once you get to this point you can then take the tail and just pull that out to make that knot a little bit more snug. And now we have this huge loop to work with. So what we're going to do is pull our feeder yarn to make that loop smaller, enough to fit 2 needles. Okay, so take your needles, put it in the loop. You can loosen up or tighten the needles. Then from here, we're just going to gather some feeder yarn and we're going to get into our knit stitch position. So this one's going to be fairly easier, as you can imagine, because there's less stitches to work on. So go ahead and knit the number of stitches that the instructions are telling you to do. And then once you've done that, we're going to start our first row by sticking our needle on the first stitch here and doing the knit stitch. Creating 1 stitch on the right needle and then losing a stitch on the left needle, and we're just going to continue that again, creating a new stitch on the right needle, removing a stitch on the left needle. One more time, creating a new stitch on the right needle and then losing a stitch on the left needle. So once you get to this point, just transfer your left needle onto your right side, flip your right needle over to your left. Make sure that your project grows down by making sure all these stitches are in a straight line. And then we're going to start this all over again. So you just keep doing your knit stitches down the line. And like I said, this one's a lot easier because it's smaller. But we're just, again, going to transfer our needle, flip over the right needle, make sure that our project's going down and not twisting. But from here, I'm going to complete the rectangle. We're going to make it the length that it is asking us to do. I'm going to pop in one more time and show you how to cast off. And then again, the other 2 rectangles I'm going to do off camera. We're going to come back on and sew everything together. Alright, so that was quick, but this is a small one. So now I'm going to show you how to cast off. We're going to start with knitting 2 stitches. You're always going to need 2 stitches to cast off because we're going to lift up this first stitch, leapfrog it over the next. You can hold your thumb on that stitch so you don't lose it, but we're going to remove this one off the right and then off the left. So we're stuck with 1. Then we're going to do this again. Do your knit stitch. We're going to leapfrog this stitch over this one. Hold it down with your thumb. We're going to remove this stitch off the right and then off the left. So now that we're left with 1 stitch here, I'm just going to cut about 1 inch or so. We're going to yarn over. And I'm going to leapfrog this stitch over the yarn over, hold it down with your thumb, off the right needle, off the left needle, and then we're going to pull the feeder yarn all the way out by pulling out the right needle. Then we're going to pull on the feeder yarn to tighten up that stitch, making it a knot, and then we've completed this rectangle. Alright you guys, so again I'm going to do the last 2 rectangles off camera. It should be pretty straightforward for the next 2 rectangles with you. Just follow what I did for the past 2 rectangles. We're going to come back in and sew this, berry milk together. Alright, so I have all my rectangular pieces made. What we're going to do now is sew the pieces together. So I got my plastic needle out of the pouch and I'm going to thread up the pink yarn on the largest rectangle. And what I don't like about this, so we did the stripe first, which I think kind of helps. It makes life easier if they kind of allude to how many, rows you need for this color change, because then from here on out you can just measure the length. In the last video, we kind of had it opposite where we started this, and then we had to do the last bit of a cream color. And that one was kind of hard to know how many rows you would need, just because you would have to just guess where to stop with the color and then do the cream. But anyway, that's besides the point. I don't like how we did it here, however, because now we have the tail on this end. We have to sew the bottom of the box onto the bottom side of the rectangle. So if you have your tail all the way up here, you know, how are you supposed to sew this together? Now, the instructions have you sew around the perimeter of the bottom first. You could do this one or two ways. It's up to you to do it. I want to do it this other way. It may be wrong, but if you want to play it safe, just weaving out this needle with the tail all the way through, and you're going to pull it all the way through so that you just make pretend it's weaved in and out of this side here, and then you can start sewing the perimeter of the rectangle, the bottom of the box, that way. What I'm going to do right now, which may be the wrong way, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I'm already here. If I'm already up here, you might as well already sew this together like that. Like, why not? Why wouldn't you? So it says to sew with the prettier side out, and you know that this is the prettier side because we have nice clean color blocking. We don't have the stripes on the other side, and we also have to deal with the tying of the color change. So we're going to deal with that by tucking it inside this rectangle, and then we're going to sew over the edge for this. This is going to be one of the corners of the box. So let's do that now. So again, if you want to follow the instructions and sew the bottom of the box first, just weave in and out your tail on the side. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way, but just so that I don't waste a length of yarn just to get it down here first, I might as well just sew this side first, because I'm going to do it anyway in the end. After you sew the perimeter of the box, they have you sewing this end. So, you know, it just makes kind of sense to me. So I'm just lining this up row for row, sewing the rows together. Okay, and then once we get down to the other side, then we can now sew the bottom to it. So pick the prettier side goes on the outside. So the same thing with the bottom, just in case you flip it over. Not that you ever see the bottom, but this side here looks like the prettier side. So I don't know if we're going to use this tail later. So just tuck the tail on the wrong side and hide that in the box. So from here, we're going to sew around the perimeter, trying to keep this rectangular shape. So I'm going to try going stitch by stitch and see where that gets me. I didn't look at the math. And again, I'm not a sewer either, so if you're better at this than I am, don't listen to what I'm saying. Alright, so that kind of worked out. I was doing stitch for stitch, at least close to stitch for stitch. But I'm back on the other side now. So all I got to do really, I'm going to stick, let me just, there's a little gap here in the corner. I want to close that. But I'm just going to stick my needle in the bottom end here, and I'm going to make it come up from inside the box, because I'm just going to use a nearby, here we got a nearby little excess piece. I'm going to tie it twice. And you know what? I'm not sure what the construction is going to look like moving ahead. So I'm just going to leave this attached for now and see what it says. But then, yeah, after that, if you had done it the way where you weaved it down and sewn the bottom of the box, now you can sew the side of it. We've already done that. At least for those that just did it right out of the gate. So now we have this. And then we're going to move on to the next steps. Really? Okay, so now it has you stitching on the arms, which I think is a great idea, just because you're able to tie your knots inside without having to kind of figure out how you're going to hide it. So let's take one of these arms here, and it doesn't really say where to put it. I like when they say, oh, row whatever, or halfway or something. So what I'm going to do is just stare at this photo that we have here in the front of the instructions, and I'm going to kind of count the rows. That's how I would do it. Okay, so I'm just going to count up, and you see how we did. I feel like we should have done more rectangles in panels, because where we sewed it, it's a nice corner mark, whereas everything else is just, you know, it's not a corner. Anyway, okay, so now I just have to gauge where the center is. Okay, and this one's an easy one, because once you sew this, you can then go inside of this box and then just find your moment to tie a knot, but it's already on the inside, so you don't have to worry about hiding it. Okay, and then you can tuck that piece in. So then from here we have this little piece. We can trim this out, but what I'm going to do first, actually, and what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to weave this in and out of the side of the arm, and I'm actually going to make it go inside the box. Since we already have it open, why not, right? So after you weave it in and out up the arm, stick the needle through the box here. All right, make sure that you pull the arm straight. It's not bunching. You can tell if it's bunching if it does this. You want to pull that back out. We're going to tie 2 times around the piece, the tail that we hid in here. So it all works out. This is why I like doing things before stuffing and closing, because then you can hide anything in here. So now that we have that down, we just have to do the other arm. So let's do this now. And we're going to try to do the same row that we did on the other side. And there's no crisp line now for the corner, so you really got to try hard to make sure you get it in the middle of the side. Okay, same thing. Come in from the inside then. And then we're going to find a moment to tie our knot. Okay. Then we're going to take the, oh no, there's a, so remember I showed you how they cut it in half for some reason? Now I got this little piece because I had to tie those two pieces together. That one strand wasn't enough to make two arms without having to knead more yarn. So that's why I was like, why did they do that? Just give me one continuous piece. Comment below if you got one continuous piece, or if they gave you two cut pieces. Because I get what they were trying to do, but they're trying to say knit micro stitches because it wasn't enough. Each one wasn't enough to do that and the stripe. So very disappointed with that. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing that we did on the other side. I'm just going to tie this twice around the tail that we hid. Okay. So now they have us stuff. Now there is that long tail from the bottom of the box. I'm going to pull that one out, and the one that we use to sew the side and the perimeter. I'm sticking these two pieces out in case we need it, because I'm not exactly sure how this is going to end up. So take your pouch, take what you need from here. I mean, if I was, you know, ambitious, try sewing this on. Actually, let's do that. Let's use one of these. I'm going to use the shorter one to sew on the front right now, because I could hide it. And I would do this with the crochet kits too. I really wanted to, because I didn't use those safety eyes or anything like that, because it's a choking hazard. So I would end up trying to sew as much as I can with it not stuffed, so I can hide the tied pieces and then stuff it. So what I'm going to do is pick the nicer side. Actually, this might be the nicer side, but it has that. Oh, annoying. Yeah, this kind of trails droopy down like that, so we're going to use this side. And it looks like the sign, the bottom of the sign is really low. So let's try doing it that way. Look at the tail of that bottom is right here on the top left corner. I'm just going to come down, and you know what? Find the middle of this box, and I'm just going to put it right above where we sewed the perimeter. Okay, so we are stretching it a little bit, but I'm going to use this and put this here. Okay, so now this is as low as it can possibly be, which is okay. But now I'm just going to sew this together. And we are going to go in and out of these perforated holes. Hopefully it's enough. If anything, I could always tie another string of pink, because I have a lot of pink left over. I can tie the pink, more pink, to make this piece a little longer. Okay, and then we're back at the bottom. I want to make sure that it's going into the same low level. place that we started from. Level row. Alright, and then now what we're going to do is I'm going to come back from the middle and we're just going to work our way back. We're going to take the spots that we didn't do because there's straight stitches all the way around. So see, we have a little bit. I'm just going to cut a little bit more pink and tie it together. But here we can kind of continue what we're doing here. Like that. You see what I'm doing? So now I'm just going to get more pink. And we're going to tie this to the other end. Hopefully it doesn't land outside of this the box. Hopefully it stays inside. But I'm going to just continue around. Oh, that would be helpful. Let's put this through the... Ah, funny. Okay. Let me see if it will. I can pull it extra just to get that knot out because you're going to have a little resistance because of the knot. Yeah, so if I go this way, you can see that it actually is going to be tucked into the box. If it doesn't, just pull it back through and keep the knot behind. You will have a little slack, but that's okay. You just want to make sure that this knot does not end up on the outside of your box. Okay. All right, I might have grabbed a little too much pink, but we can just hide that in here. So we have the tail from when we sewn the perimeter and the side. We have the tail from now this. Let's find a moment first to tie our knot so that the sign doesn't come loose. Right, and then once we do that, then I'm going to leave this on the outside and we're going to stuff. So get your pouch, remove all the stuffing. I'm going to start putting this in here. Okay, putting bit by bit is, I find, easier to manipulate later. If you put it all in one chunk and you want to make it even, sometimes I feel like it's hard to work with. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we have to sew the top together. Where do you have me sewing it? Alright, so we're going to sew it in 2 spots. So, it looks like... I want to leave this out just in case we need it because I'm not sure this is going to be enough. So they want you to fold the side in like that, and then you have to fold the other side in like this. All right, we have to make that like a juice box. Except it's berry. So this is where it's gonna be difficult. So we have to sew the zigzag in on both sides. What I would suggest, do I have my marker? I have a marker, so this might hold one side. Try to find the middle, bend it to make a corner, and then we're doing like a zigzag here. Okay, bend it back. Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3 stitches. Let's just say I just picked a random number. Taking one of my knit stitch markers. They don't put these in your kit, but these are what I always talk about. These definitely help you out, especially if you want to go cheap. There's like machines that or tools that help you stitch count, but this is a good stitch counter, stitch and row counter, and it's helping us in this situation because I'm just taking the stitches that I'm gonna sew in my zigzag together, and I'm already putting a little marker there to hold it in place, so I'm not going nuts trying to find it later. But now on this side I just have to repeat it, and I just have to remember the stitch count. So I said about 3, right? So we just have to bend this corner and make sure there's at least 3 stitches on this inside. So 1, 2, 3, stitch it closed, pinch it closed, and then we're going to stitch it closed. So we just put this in our little fold. We're going to do 2 sides. We're going to do the top edge, and then we're going to do the edge right below the white stripe. And I'm going to use straight stitches. It kind of looks like, yeah, it looks like they're using straight stitches. So that's basically what we're doing, and we're doing that because we want to have this little fold on the side to make it look like one of those juice boxes. Oh, it makes me want to have a juice box. But we're just going stitch by stitch now, sewing the tops together. And with all this stuffing, it is kind of making it difficult to lie flat, but it's okay. Again, I think if we use like cut cardboard to make straight walls of this box, maybe it'll be easier. This stitch marker, you can remove after you successfully sewn all these stitches together, because it's actually helping me keep this fold in place while I do this. Okay, and then also this piece, if we end up not needing it, we can just trim it. Not a big deal. I'm going to release this stitch marker. So we got the top done. Now they want us to sew the bottom. So I'm going to I feel like this can be a little bit more closed. So I'm just going to go around here one more time. Let me see. I feel like, is this going to make it? Yeah, it's going to make it. What am I thinking? Alright, so now I'm going to stitch the bottom of the white stripe. Let's go this way. So you're going to go in one side at the bottom of this white stripe. Maybe we can do it just below the white stripe, and then just below the white stripe here. Alright, let's see. Let's move this over a little bit. And try not to sew the stuffing. I think that's going to be a little tough because I think I already started sewing through it. We're going to do straight stitches in and out of the top part here. This is going to be a bulbous box. I think there was a little... It's funny, I think the last kit didn't have enough stuffing. This kit had a lot of stuffing, and now it looks like a belly of a juice box rather than a juice box. But, alright, so I'm on the other side now. I'm going to find my moment to tie my knot. And then I'm going to tuck it into... I'm going to tuck it inside the project. So once you tie your knot, stick your needle right where it comes up, and then come out some random spot in the project, doesn't matter where. Pull it all the way through till that disappears. Then I'm going to cut flush against the surface, and then you can just squeeze your project. I mean, it already hid, but just to hide it. And then here's where I'm going to shape it. So we've got that top. Again, this is too much stuffing, I feel, but I think if we did straight walls, it's all fine. Oh, and then this piece here, let's just trim this off. We ended up not using it. Okay. And then the last bit is to put on our face. And we have to put that right up here. So I'm going to try to squeeze some of that stuffing up here so that, like before it was kind of sunken back, I want to try to fit that stuffing up here so it pushes this face out a little bit. Alright. So first I'm going to take the mouth, just because it's going to define our center of our face. Okay, and you just want to pinch that down for a few seconds to make sure that any adhesive is sticking to as much yarn as possible to keep it stuck on there. Now, if you want to secure this for life, you can take a needle and a sewing thread and sew around the perimeter. It'll be very difficult because this is so tiny. But if you have the patience for it, I suggest doing it. Otherwise, you're going to lose the smile over time. You could take a black marker at that point and draw it in, but I don't know. Anyway, next you're going to put the eyes in, and again we're going to let the adhesive touch as much of the surface as possible, and then we're going to do one more, or the other eye, one more eye. Must we? No. We're going to do the other eye. And then you want to try to make it even. Pinch that down as well. And that is it, you guys. We are done. Look how cute. And I totally made this crooked. Oh well. It's on there. Oh well. Alright. So here is our berry milk. Fresh berry milk. This is the instructions. Close. They definitely put something inside to make it nice and crisp. But that's photos for you. They do it to food too on TV. It's not even edible. They make it nice so that it looks good on TV. But anyway. Alright, you guys. There you have it. Berry milk. Comment below. Let me know what you think. I wanted to take this opportunity to let you guys know that I am doing a special NFL giveaway. It's an 18-week giveaway, and we're doing week 11. I still feel that there is opportunity to win. So I'll leave my link to the original channel in the description box below. I post those videos there every Tuesday. for during the NFL season. You basically have to choose which team out of the nails that I show is going to win or lose their games. The person that makes the most correct picks will end up winning. So if we have 8 weeks left, you could be in the lead. Right now, I have one person in the lead of 6, I think, correct picks. So when it gets to a point where I don't think you're gonna make it, if you don't get every single one right, I'll stop promoting this giveaway. But I'm promoting it because I think the prize is going to be beneficial to you guys. I'm going to pick 2 winners, a nail winner and then a craft winner. The craft winner is going to get a bunch of goodies. They're also going to get a gift card along with a 1-hour virtual session with me to go over any projects that you have that you really need help with, or if you really want a one-on-one learning session on how to crochet or knit, or if you are inspired to start your own channel or currently have a channel and need help with it, we can also talk about that. But I thought I'd share on this one. This is my new pilot channel. I'm trying to make it grow and eventually, split the original channel to just be nails. But anyway, for my schedule, I do have one more itty bitty knit kit. And then I was asked to do a Chucky crochet kit. And then I'm going to be doing a few Dollar Tree kits along with some Annie's crochet blocks. So, and then I'm going to go back on, I have Wicked crochet kits, and then more other, and knitting, itty bitty knit kits. So I just letting you know what's coming up, because it's a lot, and I'm really getting down the list, so I'm happy about that. At any rate, thank you guys so much for watching. This is
Isms by Josie.
Please share, like, and subscribe for future videos, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks. Bye.